Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Can I get an indication? Can just send a yes in the chat. Let's see. Okay, great. Okay. Keen. Oh, I see your sister's computer is not working. That is a shame. I hope you get it sorted. As long as everybody can hear, I'm happy. All right. Let me start sharing my screen. Sorry for not being able to present the class last week. I was writing exams myself. So I had Mr. Vium did the test with you that I compiled. How did you find the test last week? I gave you 3 questions, and some of them difficult, some more easy. But is there anyone that found the test too easy? Should I make it a bit more difficult next time? Or was it challenging enough? Any comments on that? Who found the test easy? Or some questions at least. I'll open the test now and go through solutions with you. Okay, I see Nabila's typing. I can get this started so long. You should tell me if the tests are too easy or if they're too difficult. I don't want it to be too easy for everybody. I want it still to be somewhat challenging. Otherwise, you will not learn. Okay, Nabil says it was very challenging. Could you do it, Nabil? Could you finish all the questions? Even though it wasn't in time, could you afterwards find solutions? I'll go through some solutions now with everybody. Right, let me open this so long. Okay, so while he is typing, I want to give you a little review. So I heard some students had a difficulty creating a list from an input string. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 3 minutes. Then I want you to create a list of integers from a single input where every element is separated with a space. So what do I mean? I want to type in the numbers 1 and then a space, 5 space 34 space 2. And then I want the program to return a list for me. So then I can access every element individually. So if I access the first element, I will get 1. The second, I will get 5. I will get 34 and so on. Right, so I want you, oops, I almost gave the solution there. I want you to try create a little program where it asks the user for a single input and then it returns a list of integers. So every space will mean a separate element in the list. Right. I'll give you about 3 minutes for that, and then I want solutions. Oh, I see Nabil says to complete 2 of the questions, not within the hour. That is fine. Okay, great. I'm glad you got 2 of the questions. I'm guessing you struggled with the company logo one. That was a difficult one. All right, I'll give everybody 3 minutes. I'll set the timer, and you're off. If you're finished before the time, just give me an indication. You can just tell me in the chat when you're done. Two minutes left. Is anybody done yet? 1 minute left. About like 1.5 minute. This will be the basis for many of the Olympiad questions. In the question papers, you will have to be able to do this. Okay, nobody done yet. Alright. Almost gave the solution again. Get confused with all the tabs sometimes. 50 seconds. Twenty seconds. Ten seconds. Is anybody finished? And time is up. Could anybody finish this little program? Right, so I did see previously that some of the students struggle with this one, which is fine. So I want you to memorize almost this. This will be one of the most important pieces of code. Almost all the questions will have this. Even if you're not doing the Olympiads, understanding this will make programming other programs a lot easier. Right, so let me go through my solution. So what I wanted you to do was to create a list with separate elements from a single input. So I do not want the user to enter every number individually. I want to, let me show you an example. So if I run this, then I'm going to enter the number 1, 5, 10, 32, and then I want to be able to access those elements separately. So the number so from a single input, so this is a string with spaces. Then I want to separate from the spaces and just find the numbers. Okay, so I start by creating a variable called string int. You can call it anything. So this is just the string of integers. And this is just the user input. So this line will return a single string, only a single string. Now I create an empty list, okay? You can do this all in one line, but I'm breaking it up so it's a bit easier to understand. So then I have an empty list of string integers. All right. So what I do now is I use the map function. So we did the map function previously. So the map function takes a list and it performs a function on every item in that list. Okay, so first I split this string of integers. So if you do not give an argument, so these brackets are empty, so I don't give an argument, so that means I split it at the spaces. So in our example, so it now creates a list split at this space, and that space. So we have 1 as a separate element, 5 as a separate element, 10 as an element, and 32 as an element, because at every space it creates a new element and it throws away the space. So now we have a list of integers, but it's still a string. So now using the map function, I cast it to an integer, every element in this list we just created. And then I just save this as a list in our list string int. Right. And all I do now is I say for every integer in our list, I print that integer. But I can even remove this line of code. And I can print, for example, let's print the second element. So in our list, if I create a new list and I say 2, 54, 20, 100, now I want to print our second element, so we will print 54. Oh, I got a problem. I was being stupid, sorry. Let's try that again. If I say 2, 54, 100, and 20, I want to print the number 54. There you go. So now we have a list from a single line. We created a list of elements from a single input line. Oh, okay, Keen is able to do that. Oh, sorry, was my question unclear? Does everybody understand this line of code I did here? Does everybody understand this line? Line 4 especially. This is where we do the most of the work. If it doesn't make sense, please stop me and I will slow down. Alright. If my question was unclear, I'm sorry. I hope it makes sense now. Okay. So a lot of the questions in the Olympiad paper especially will require you to write create a list out of a single line. So this is a very important piece of the program you should be able to do. Alright, even if you're not doing the Olympiad paper, this will help you with other programs in Python. Okay, so let's start. The test of last week. Question 1. So I wanted you to compress a string. Okay, so I'll go through the question. So you are given a string called S. Suppose a character occurs consecutively any amount of times in the string. Replace these consecutive occurrences with the amount of times it occurs and the character's name. Okay, so what do I mean with that? So we have a string here. For example, you'll see the string being 1, 222, 3, 111. So we want to save space. We want to take up less space. So if there's 222 is repeated, so instead of writing out 222, we only want to say 2 occurs 3 times. And then 3 occurs 1 time. And then 1 occurs 2 times. Okay, but only if it is written consecutively. So for example, if this was 1, 222, 3, 111, 222 again, then there would be another bracket here at the end also with 3 times that 2 occurs. So it'll be a bracket and it'll be 3, 2. Right. So first the character 1 occurs only once. It is replaced by 1, 1, meaning the character 1 occurs only 1 time. Then the character 2 occurs 3 times and it is replaced by 3, 2. Right. So to do that, here is my solution. Compress the string. Okay. So I started out by creating an empty string variable called answer. Then I take the string called S and I assign it the user input. Right. So an index. So this is just how I count. Then I create a temporary variable. All right. So what I do here is I assign index, so which is currently 0, to this temporary variable. Then while temp is smaller than the length. So what I'm doing now is I want to run through the entire string. And I want to stop when I get at the end. Okay, so I start with our count, 0. Then I assign temp to the index. We will do this program now slowly. So here is a while inside a while. So this piece of code will repeat every time this while is repeated. So you'll see now what I mean with this. This is a loop inside a loop. All right. So let's do it piece by piece, so it makes a bit more sense. All right, we're going to take the exact same string. Where is this now? So it is 1 222 311. Okay, so we'll say the next line. I can skip this. Okay, so 1 222 311. All right, so what happens now? So you'll see index is 0. We assign the temporary value also the index, which is currently 0. So the length of our string s, so we can see here the length of this, it will repeat for this entire string. Okay, so we start for the first time. Okay, so while the temporary variable is less than the length and the string index. So we get the index number, so which is currently 0. So we start at the first, so we start at 1. So is equals to also the same character. So the temporary one is also currently 1. If both of these are true, then we add 1 to temp, and we add 1 to our count. Okay, this will start making sense in a bit. So what happens here is we start now and we see there is one occurrence of 1. So we add 1 to the count. Okay, now we want to go and we see, okay, the second character is 2. So these are not equal. So this does not equal number 2. So our index is the first one. And now our temporary one increased, so our temporary one now goes to 2. So 1 is not equal to 2, so this part skips. Alright, so what we did now was we added this to our, so here is our first bracket. So our first bracket will be one occurrence of 1. So we start and we say, we take the bracket, we add a bracket, and we write the count, how many times it occurs, and we cast it to a string. This is what this part is. And then we have our comma, and then we write what occurs this amount of times. So we have the number 1 occurring 1 time. So this, our index is currently number 1. 1 occurs once. So now we have our bracket, you'll see. So in our answer, we just added 1 comma 1. All right, so this means the number 1 occurs once. All right. So now we go on and we move to the next variable. So now we reset count to 0 because we're starting with a new digit. All right. So we're going to assign 0. Now we start looking at 2. Okay. So we add 1 to our temporary variable and we add 1 to our count. Okay, so now we have one occurrence of 2. Let's see again. Okay, so for the next one, we have another occurrence of 2. So we add that to our count. And for the next one, we have another occurrence of 2. So now we check for number 3. 3 is not the same as 2. So then we add this to our answer. So now we will add 3 occurrences of 2. There you go. As you see in our answer, we just added 3 occurrences of 2. All right. Let's try that again. We reset our count to 0. We now look at number 3. So we see the temporary variable and the index we're looking at. So we're looking at number 3, and we set temporary also to number 3. We're checking these two against each other now, and we see, okay, all right, we have one occurrence of number 3. And now we're checking the next one, and that is not a 3, so we will skip this loop because this value will return false because 3 does not equal 4. Alright, so we skip that. So now we add the following bracket. We will add one occurrence of 3. Alright, there you go. One occurrence of 3. And we reset our count. Now we see we have 2 occurrences of 1. We add that to our bracket and we are finished. And here we get the final answer. 1 occurrence of 1, 3 occurrences of 2, one occurrence of 3, and 2 occurrences of 1. All right. You can go through this program on your own as well using the debugger. And I also want to show you on HackerRank. Here are solutions that you can look at. I will show you how to run through HackerRank in a bit. Let's say HackerRank. Let's actually take a look at this exact problem. So this problem's name was compress this string. So I can say HackerRank, compress this string. Here I will find the problem. Now I can look at the leaderboard. If you're really stuck, but please do this as a last resort. If you're really stuck, you'll find all the best solutions to the program, to the problem, and you can say you can filter by language. So this is written in all sorts of languages, but let's filter by Python 3, which is what we are using. Okay, so we will only look at solutions in Python 3. So I want to see what is the best solution. Then you click on View Solution, and here it is. Here is someone's solution, which looks very similar to mine. I see. All right, so this is how you can look at other people's solutions. You see this person imported something. If it started with importers, it means they're using a library. So you can run through and you can look at all the different solutions. But only do this when you really cannot find a solution. All right. So that was my, what is the map function needed for? Okay. Oh, sorry, Didi, I see you asked this a bit earlier. So this was in our class. Okay. So the map function, just once again quickly. The map function, as we discussed earlier, I can say map and then Python. Here you will see we use the map function if we want to perform a function on something in a list. All right, so this gives a nice explanation, but in our example here, so we have a list of strings. So using this function, if I split, let me actually show you again. So if I create a list, so I want to make a list of integers, so I have the numbers 1, 5, 20, and 14, but this is all in a single input. So this is a single string with different numbers in it, but I want to cast them to a list. So using string int.split, okay, because our string int will be our input. So if I use the .split method, then at every space it will give me a new element. So now we will have a list of elements 1, 5, 20, and 14. But now I want they are all strings at the moment. Now I want them to be integers. So instead of saying for every single element in the list, cast number 1 to an integer, cast number 2 to an integer, cast number 3 to an integer. Instead of doing that, I use the map function. So the map function will perform a function on a list of elements. So we use the map function. So I'm saying I want this entire list to be cast to an integer. So every element in this list must be an integer. So that is why I'm using the map function. So I'm saying take element number 1 and make it an integer. Take element number 2, make it an integer. Number 3, make it an integer. And so on for every element in my list. So we will make 1 an integer, 5, 20, and 14 all integers. So we do that in a single line of code. Instead of saying list string int 0 equals an integer version of list string of int 0. So instead of doing that for every, so then we can say, then we will make the second element also an integer, the third element's an integer, and so on. So instead of performing this function on every element, we can just use the map function to make our work as a programmer a lot less. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Right, so that was my solution to the first problem. Okay, it is on the PowerPoint, and I will upload the video also. Alright, number 2. This was a difficult one. Could anybody solve question number 2, the company logo question? Anybody that wants to share their code with us? I also struggled a bit with this one. Alright, I see no one is typing, so let me go ahead and share my code then. So, a little background on the question. A company opened a multinational brand, and they decided to base their company logo on the 3 most common characters in the company name. So, for example, if you're using Google, then you'll see the 3 most common characters are G and O. And after that, L and E both have the same amount of occurrences, but then we want them alphabetically sorted. So E comes before L. So then you will have G, O, E. Alright. So the constraint just means the string can't be less than 3 characters, and it can't be more than 10 to the power of 4 characters, which is a very big amount. A very, very long company name. Okay, and the string must at least have 3 different distinct characters. So it can't be 3 characters all G, 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 G. You can't do that. Right. So there must be at least 3 different characters. Right. So for example, if we have the company name AA triple B double C D E, we will have 3 occurrences of B, meaning B will be first. 2 occurrences of A and 2 occurrences of C. Because they are both occurring the same amount of times, we want them sorted alphabetically. Right, so let's get to it. My solution, company logo. Okay, so what I do first is I want to check. So how I'm approaching this is I'm creating a list of frequencies. So I want to see the amount of times something occurs. Okay, so this might be a long way of doing it. There most definitely are better ways. But what I'm doing is I'm creating a list of every character in the alphabet. So starting at 0 up until 26, I want to create an empty list. So let me show you. If I run this, oops, I should actually start from the beginning. So debug company logo. Right. So let me run through this loop as if I am the loop. So I'll show you what I'm doing now. Then it'll make sense. Great. Okay. So currently I have a list of amount of times a character occurs. So starting, the first one represents A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, until Z. So I have 0 occurrences of A, 0 of B, C. Okay, so you see this is empty. We have no occurrences. So now I am starting by asking the user for an input. Let's use Google. So now for the first time, typing in my sentence called my company name, and I'm naming it Google. Right. So now for every character in my string, I'm creating a new variable. And what I'm doing now is I'm getting the number. Okay, so you'll remember, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, we discussed the ORD and the char functions. Okay, so what this does is it takes the ASCII value. So let me show you quickly ASCII values. We have done this before, but I just want to show you a quick refresher of this. So every character has a value. So you'll see here, we start at the number A. So the number A has the value 97. This is how the computer keeps track of what character you're typing in. All right, you'll see, for example, space is the value 32. So A is 97, B 98, 90, and so it goes all the way until Z. And you'll remember that capital letters have a different value. So the capital letter A is 65. The capital letter Z is 90, where the lowercase letter a is 97. and Z lowercase is 122. So we are only working with lowercase letters. So from 97 up until 122. So my solution is finding the character value. Okay. So what I'm doing now is I first want to see what value this is in comparison to A. So we're starting with the letter G. Okay. So there you can see the first element in our string is G. So G gets assigned the value of 6. I can take out that step and then I can just work with 97 all the way to 122, but that would be a bit more difficult. So to make it easier for myself, so I got the value 6. So then you'll see if you calculate it here, then A will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll be A, B, C, D, E, F, G. All right. So we're working with the 6th value. Okay, so now we're saying there is one occurrence of G. So now we add 1 to the frequency. So you'll see there at the top, we have one occurrence of G. Right. So now we're checking the next character. So the next character will be O. So O, we assign the value of 14. So O will be around here somewhere. I'm not going to count all the way now. So O will be 14. And there's one occurrence of O. There you see. We have one occurrence of O. And the next character is also O. So there you see we add 1. So now we have 2 occurrences of O. The next character is G. So that is back to 6 again. So there we have so we have another occurrence of G. And you can see we added there. So we have 2 occurrences of G, 2 occurrences of O. Then we go the next one, which will be L. So L is assigned 11. We have 1 occurrence of L. So you can see 2 of G, 2 of O, 1 of L. And then the next one is E. And E is here in the beginning. So 1 E, 2 Gs, 1 L, 2 O's. And we are done with our string. Okay, so we went through everything and we found how many times each character occurs. Now we want the top 3 characters. So I'm only going to do this piece of code 3 times. Okay, so I'm saying the most common. I'm setting this to 0. Okay, so what I'm doing now is I'm checking for Y in the range. Okay, so now we want the length of our frequencies. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm checking if my frequency occurrence is more than the common, then I set the common to this frequency. So we start with 0. So everything will be more common than nothing, than 0. So the first thing we get will get assigned the new value, the new highest common. All right. So we first start and we're running. Now you'll see 1. So you'll see we started here from A. There's no A's, no B, no C, no D. Then E will be the most common one first. So you'll see we run through that until we get to E. Okay, there we got to E. Common was now 6. Okay, so then we got to E and we assigned this value. So it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so this means the 4th. So from the starting at counting at 0, so it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 was our first most common. So we assigned that to common. And then we moved on. E, F, G. So G was more common. So then we go 4, 5, 6. So this one is now more common. So we assign this to our most common. Right, so you'll see the common is now number 6, which is G. So now we're looking if there's something that is more common than G. Then we go up all the way. But we will not find anything because both G and O occurs the same amount of time. So G will now be the most common one. So G will be written first because we are going in alphabetical order. And we are done with the entire alphabet. So now we will print our first most common character. And now we reset. So here you can see in the console, we have 2 occurrences of G. So we have printed our first most common character in the alphabet. So we reset our common value now. and we start again. So now we start at the next value. Okay, so we go through them all again until we find our second most common value, and here you can see our second most common value is 14, which will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So these are our O's. Okay, so we have 2 occurrences of the letter O. Let me run through this. There you go. There we print 2 occurrences of O. And now we can fast forward. I'm clicking as fast as I can. Then we're going to write L, which will be our third most. E, which will be our third most common character. And it is first in the alphabetical list. So here we have G, 2 occurrences, O, 2 occurrences, and E, 1 occurrence. Okay. This was my solution. It took me a while to get this. But it does work. There might be better ways of doing it, but it works. All right. And then quickly the last one. Here you can see my solution. Then the last one. This is an easy one. The runner-up score. So given the participant score sheet for your university sports day, you are required to find the runner-up score. So we want the second place person. So first we're going to say how many scores there are, and then we're going to find the second score. So here you'll see the second line contains an array of integers, each separated by a space. So once again, as we did in our review, so we're going to input this list separated by space, and we're going to have to find or we're going to have to create a list based on these. All right, based on this single string. So my solution, I got a very quick, fun solution. You can do this even in one line of code. I'm breaking this a bit up. So what I'm doing is I'm actually not using this. I'm only doing this because it is required in the question. But you'll see I'm using my, and so the first one is how many scores there are. So let's say there are 5 scores, but I can actually comment out this line of code and my program will still work. I'm only doing this for the question. Right. So then for the second part, we want to input the scores. So let me quickly show you that it works. So we want the scores. Let me look at the question again. 2, 3, 6, 6, 5. So 5 is our runner-up score. So I'm going to copy this one exactly. I'm going to say 2, 3, 6, 6, 5. And we will get 5 being the runner-up score. So what am I doing? Okay. So first I'm taking the input and I'm splitting the input as we just did. So now I have a list of strings. Okay, so we have a string 2, a string 3, a string 6, a string 6. So then I'm using the map function and I am running this function on every element in our list. So I'm creating an integer out of every single element. So I'm making 2 an integer, 3 an integer, 6 an integer, 6 an integer, and so on. Now I'm using a set. Okay, so I'm not using, so you'll remember we did sets, lists, tuples, all those. So can anybody tell me why am I using a set? Looking at this piece of code, why am I using a set? Can anybody tell me? Let me zoom in a bit. It will make sense in a moment. But if someone wants to take a chance, why am I using a set and not a list? All right, I see no one is typing. Okay, so in a list you can have duplicate values. Let me show you a set versus a list in Python. Okay, so in a set you can have in a list you can have duplicate values. But let me see here. Where was this? A set cannot have duplicate values. Where was this now? I'm sorry. Okay, I will find that a bit later. A nice example. But for example, if you have a list with the values 2, 3, 6, 6, 5, then every element will be in this list. But in a set, the 2 6s will be thrown away and you will only have 1 6. The extra, every duplicate value is thrown away. Why am I doing that? So if I want to find the highest score, so what I'm doing now is I'm casting them to a set. I'm throwing away all duplicate values so that I only have one value of each integer. Right. So now I use this function, sorted. So I'm sorting this list, this set, sorry, not a list. So I'm sorting this set. So I'm sorting them from low to high. So we're starting at 2, 3, 5, 6 because we throw away the other 6. So we only have 2, 3, 5, 6. Okay, now I want to find the second highest number. Okay, so if I use the index, so you'll remember if we count 1, so now using 2, 3, 6, 6, 5, we will now print the number 2 because we want the first value. But if I use -1, we will print the final value. So by throwing away the duplicates, I am ensuring that I only have one count of every score, so I can find the second highest score. So if I go -2, because we threw away all the duplicates, I can now find the runner-up. So the runner-up of 2, 3, 6, 6, 5 will be 5. Let me show you the difference if I do a list instead of a set. Look what happens now. 2, 3, 6, 6, 5. We will get 6. Why is that? Because we have 2 versions of 6. So let me quickly show you. So we will now have a list of 2. 2, 3, 5, 6, 6. So now the second last one, so this is the last one. This is our second last one. But by using a set, we throw away all duplicates. So then we just check the second last one. This is an easy way to get the runner-up. If we do the program correctly, we will say there are 5 values and then 2, 3, 6, 6, 5. Right. But as you see, for my program, this is unnecessary. I'm only doing it for the question. And that is it. That is my solution. All right. So, for the homework, I want you to have a good holiday. Next week, I will be out of town. I will tell you again, we will give updates on when I will be back. But I want you to practice the Python on your own. Okay, there are some excellent resources out there. You can use HackerRank. This is one of the best ones for programming problems. So you can find a whole list of programming problems. If you look on HackerRank/domain/Python, here you can see some Python challenges, and you can sort them by difficulty or by the skills you will require. There's all sorts of filters you can apply. If you have a problem with strings, you can look at string problems, and you can find medium difficulty string problems. And you can open these. You can see there they give you the problem, and then you can have discussions on this platform also. People can ask you why isn't certain parts of their program working, what do they suggest, and if you're really stuck, you can look at the leaderboard. Once you click reveal solutions, you will no longer be able to get a score for this. You get scores as you complete problems, but if you reveal solutions, you cannot get a score for this problem anymore. So I just forfeited my ability to get a score for this, but then you can look at solutions as I showed you. So this is you can sort based on all sorts of criteria, but currently I'm sorted for the best solution. So this is the least amount of code with the fastest runtime. Right. I want you to enjoy your holiday and good luck. I will be on my email still, so you can ask questions, and I will check into Discord now and then. Okay. If there's any questions on today's work, feel free to ask me. I hope you learned something. I hope this made sense. Right. Are there any questions on the material we did today? Any questions about my solutions? Thank you. You're all welcome. I hope you had a good lesson. All right. All right. You're welcome. And have fun. Have a good holiday, and I'll see you again soon. All right. So if there's no questions, I will be